Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to a special Sunday afternoon edition of Hollywood After Dark. Today we're going to be talking about whether or not Kevin Feige just shot the MCU in the foot. Did it self-immolate under the pressure of its own success, or is it listening to a vocal minorities of just Twitter busybodies who don't understand the industry? We're going to be talking about that, Fast and Furious 11 update, and a big-ass bluey disaster coming out of Las Vegas, of all places. Hollywood After Dark, folks. Let's freaking go. Hey everyone, how's it going? Long time no talk. Hope everyone out there is having themselves a fantastic weekend. It's nice well, I don't know, like the weather's kind of crap here in Washington, but it's a nice May day. I wasn't expecting to do a Hollywood After Dark. This is going to be a bit quick. I have to run to work right after I do this. But the thing is I was really ticked off at a piece of news I saw today. This is all about Marvel restructuring, reorganizing, rebranding, because I don't know, like they just suck now, I guess, according to a lot of people. I don't really believe that, but they think that things have to change in order for them to be better. They do, but not in the way that they're doing. I think they're kind of self-immolating. I think they're doing this to appease the busybodies on social media that seem to think that they understand the storytelling without understanding that really it's a corporate issue more than anything else. But as always, I am here to talk about that and a whole bunch more else. If you've been noticing that the channel itself has been focusing quite a bit more on long-form audio commentary reviews, I did a review the other day of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Yes, war is coming. I have a couple days off after this. I'm going to try to get to go see Kingdom, be able to talk both about those. I've also been diving into some Tubi movies like Blair Witch, which I thought was pretty decent, and then Lake Mungo, that's out as well. And then I also did a audio commentary on Strays, which is really funny. All of those available here on the channel, $3 Theater, as well as wherever you get your podcasts. So if you want to listen to me prattle on about movies for about 30 to 40 minutes, I'm going to do a bunch of these things. I want to dive back in. I'm having a blast. Just even today, I was at the store. I picked up a copy, the new copy of Killer Clowns from Outer Space, 4K Steelbook. Totally forgot it was coming out. Surprised me at Walmart. I had to buy it. You know, I felt like a father coming home from war, and there's your child like, "Daddy, hug me." It's a weird analogy, but I love Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So with that being said, guys, thank you all so much for your continued support. Remember, if you guys do like Hollywood After Dark and you do want to support it, become a member, a premium member. That helps out, keep things going, keeps me buying movies, or at least paying for the services to watch them. And we will eventually be getting ourselves back up and running on something that I want to do called Tubi Tuesdays, where, you can we'll be able to watch a movie on Tuesday nights. I'm trying to get to that point. But in the meantime, I do have a voicemail line, 323-400-4956. Feel free to call on in. We're not going to play them every day because, honestly, we don't get that many right now. But we will play them as a couple of them accrue. That being said, thank you all. Again, just awesome. You guys are great. I really appreciate you. So let's dive into the news for today. First things first, what we can discuss here is the fact that X-Men 97 Season 2 apparently is just in the animatic state, with the producers, the showrunner, no longer Beau DeMayo, which needs to be Beau DeMayo. I think it's entirely ridiculous that they have not brought him back yet. Never mind the overwhelming success of the first X-Men related Disney produced, Marvel Studios produced content has been as amazing as it is, and yet they're not going back to the guy who did it. I think a big issue with that, though, mostly is he's very outspokenly gay, and he's very much a bodybuilder, and he very much likes to show it off. And I think Disney is just a little bit afraid of that BBC, you know what I mean? And they shouldn't be afraid of the BBC. I think if the BBC stays to its adult only, not safe for work, 18 plus, Bonely fans type situation, there's not going to be much of a crossover with your normies watching this. And by the way, X-Men 97 is aimed for for millennials. It's aimed for the millennial crowd. I don't think a lot of younger kids are watching it. If you look at the demographic breakdown of Disney Plus, it's a lot of people that are my age. Like single adult households, I believe the last I heard were like the number one statistic of who owns, or the number one demographic of who owns Disney Plus subscriptions. So Marvel's X-Men 97 is not aimed for children. It's aimed for children who watched X-Men back in the 90s, who are now middle-aged, balding, overweight, graying adults. So that's a lot of what it is. That's who the primary demographic is. And I don't think that Bo DeMayo's big black penis is going to have any kind of fucking indication on what, the popularity of the show. The dude's just a good writer. Bring him back. But anyway, they said here, people are just going to have to be patient with us on this stuff. Now, I angered a lot of people because I made a comment to this and I said AI should help this along pretty well once it gets to the phase where character consistency is applicable. And it's got like, I'm getting ratioed here, 25 comments, only 3,000. But it's still doing whatever. I mean, people get mad at the comments over AI, but it's again 100% true. It's 100% accurate. This is real. I hate to break it to you guys, but it's real. As AI, the genie's out of the bottle. You're not going to get rid of it. It's not going to go away. It's not going to be swept under a rug. It's everywhere now, and it's going to be used in everything now. And it's a tool you need to kind of learn to live with. But of course, Luddites on social media are they're afraid of change. Afraid of change in a positive sense. The stuff that Marvel's doing is not change in the positive sense. It's regressive, to be fair. But let's move on here because we've got this really interesting one coming out of Las Vegas. This is where you've got the Bluey event done by a Las Vegas restaurant has upset thousands of parents after the meet and greet was just a man in a Bluey onesie. This is the guy right here. All I got to say to this is Kanye fell off hard. You can see my response here on discussing film. But to learn more about the situation, here's what we can find out. Bluey event brings children to tears and angers parents. This is literally coming off of the Willy Wonka's thing out of the UK, and someone else tried it again. Don't mess with beloved childhood properties unless you are prepared to make it a big deal. Here we go. A Las Vegas restaurant has angered parents and upset children after hosting an event that promised to be a meet and greet with Bluey that went horribly wrong. Dirt Dog, this should have been the first key giveaway, a popular restaurant chain in Vegas and Los Angeles here, right? This is from an Australian website, by the way, Los Angeles, hosted the event that promised a meet and greet with the beloved TV character Bluey. The restaurant posted a Facebook event, celebrate Bluey with us, marathon all the Bluey episodes. There's a lot of them, by the way. There's like 3 full seasons that are at least 3 hours a pop. So you're looking at around 9 to 10 hours of Bluey content. Never mind the extended episode that recently dropped, The Sign, that brought full-grown adults to tears. Again, Bluey is really popular with adults because of a lot of unprocessed childhood trauma. I think we all can acknowledge that at this point. Anyway, the event garnered roughly 3,000 responses, according to Fox 5. However, thousands more showed up, and the parents were less than pleased after arriving. The activities were not as promised, and parents made multiple complaints about the costumes, face painting, and treats. A male employee was dressed as the beloved Aussie puppy character. By the way, it's a 6-year-old female named Bluey, who's a blue healer, and her 4-year-old sister Bingo, and her parents Chili and Bandit, who I would argue, if you've ever really watched the show, I want you to look at the parents' relationship and then ask yourself, did they have a really functional sex life? Because I would argue that they have a very satisfying sex life. I mean, they're so calm with one another. Like, I'm sure Doggy Style is just the missionary of the Bluey world, but I'm sure it's like they do it all. You know what I'm saying? But they have a safe word. I don't know what that safe word might be, but if they're they're pretty. Their imaginations are probably pretty active, to be fair. Now, one parent took to Facebook. I'm gonna go to hell for making that joke. Anyway, one parent took to Facebook to share her disdain over the following event, saying here, or showing a side-by-side comparison of the Bluey at the Dirt Dog event and another one at a trunk or treat event. Do not go, false advertisement. Pick on left, someone else's photo is what kids are waiting for at Dirt Dog. That's what we were expecting. There are far better costumes out there. Pick on right was shaking at trunk or treat event, took our kids to at Silverton parking lot, had going on last October. Leave it to a Karen to do all that. Anyway, so they've apologized. So they say here, and again, they made this using Canva, by the way. I recognize that font. To our Bluey families, we are truly sorry this event wasn't the expected experience. We take pride in putting on community events for you and your families to enjoy. We have staff play out host characters for an added personal touch. We were overwhelmed with the turnout to this event. We will continue to improve on our events so we can ensure nothing like this will ever happen in the future. We apologize to the families that missed out on what we had to offer. We hope to repair our relationship with all of you. funny thing about that, though, is like they didn't have corporate approval from Disney. Obviously, didn't have corporate approval from Disney. So what does that mean? Oh, it means that like they couldn't do it the right way. They couldn't get the actors there. They couldn't get any. They can't even legally stream the episodes. If they're going to show you all the episodes, Disney has the North American distribution rights, meaning like you can't repurpose that to have at your event using copyrighted material. To me, it's hysterical that they wanted to do that, that they tried to do it. But it is just, the hubris of people trying to capitalize on something that is wildly popular and very, very popular. I guarantee you the parents are more upset than the kids. And again, that has a lot to do with the fact that a lot of parents simply just have a lot of undiagnosed childhood trauma. It is, to me, it is very much what we have to contend with in just our world these days. But all right, let's move on here. Talk quickly about Fast and Furious 11. According to a story in Variety here, it's saying that the next Fast and Furious films might pivot and bring it back to the streets of LA and maybe even make it a more intimate story. Now, Fast and Furious was joked about in 2011 when they had Fast 5 that eventually they're going to go to space. In Fast 9, they went to space. Fast 10 was a fun movie. It was a very fun movie in many ways because Jason Momoa's character was just completely all over the place. But the fact that they say here the next Fast and Furious films might pivot. Now, I don't know if they're going to plan to do more after Fast 11. You've heard talks that this is going to be the final one. There's also the situation involving Vin Diesel and that sexual assault lawsuit that was brought on by a former assistant of his. There is a lot going on with Vin Diesel. Never mind the Chronicles of Riddick 4 Furia is about ready to go into production and start filming this September. I mean, like, either that whole thing went away or there is nothing of merit there to begin with in the first place. I don't quite know what all that's going on with that. But what I do know is that we are definitely going to be getting a more truncated franchise ender at this point, which is honestly for the best. Look, the first time that Fast and Furious grossed $1 billion was Fast 7 back in April of 2015. So that was 9 years ago in 1 month. And that was obviously coming off of the death of Paul Walker. People went to go see it. It was a very good movie. James Wan directed the hell out of that film. But what was the final act of that movie? It was all about the streets of LA. It was the streets of LA is what they were battling on. And that is something that I think resonated with the core fan base, because Fast and Furious 8 then dealt with the climax of them in Siberia trying to outrun a submarine breaking its way through the damn ice. And then they went to space in the following movie. It's just, what the hell? What, they blew up the Hoover Dam, was it? Or a dam in Fast and that could flood LA, I think is what he was trying to do at the end of Fast 10. I got to watch it again. It's been about a year. But still, it's like these movies are crazy. They're crazy. They're over the top. They're wild. They're insane. And that's one of the reasons why people like them. But really, it's also the character dynamic between all the different actors. The fact that they've kept the same actors, that they've added new people to the family, that they find a way to make the villain the hero of the next movie. They have forgiveness. They love everybody. And I really do feel that the family dynamic is really something that is sold well. So having it be a more intimate family story is going to be something. Just don't bring back Paul Walker. I know that there's been talks about them bringing back Brian's character. No, man, look, Paul Walker's death hurt a lot of fucking people, myself included. It really stuck with me after he died. And I don't want to see them bring it back for just shits and grins. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they should do that. I hope they don't do that. But we'll have to wait and see. We don't know. They might very much try to be in damage control mode right now. So let's find this out. So let's talk about a little bit real quickly about damage control, because not only do we have that big Marvel story I'm going to be talking about, but we also found out that tickets go on sale tomorrow for Deadpool and Wolverine. Obviously, this is going to be a big one. Obviously, this is going to break ticket buying websites. Fandango is going to feel it. I don't even know any of the other ones at this point. I don't care. It's Cinemark website, Regal website, AMC website. These are all going to get bombarded with people who want to go see Deadpool and Wolverine when it drops. Because I think that's going to be the big movie of the year. Not even the summer, just the year. And this might actually, all things considered, be the end of comic book movies as we know them. This is the team up that's even greater than Deadpool and Spider-Man. this is the one people want. And if this doesn't revitalize Marvel to some extent, I don't know if anything ever will ever again. Even though there are the rumors right now that Spider-Man 4 is supposed to start filming sometime this fall for a 2025 release. Never mind, there's been no director attached to it. There's really been no movement on it. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not happening. Because again, we only get things as they come out. And I don't tend to look at the rumors with any kind of validity. I like to wait for the trades to report on them because I feel like they have definitely a bit more of a better track record. And in many ways, I feel like scoopers are just like really big egomaniacs, like just massive egomaniacs. So I'm totally okay with just not giving them anything more than just kind of a passing middle finger. That's just me. You guys might feel a little bit different, and that is okay. But moving on again to more of the Marvel MCU news. Vincent D'Onofrio in a recent interview said that Daredevil Born Again originally had no connections to the Netflix series, but now has a lot after the creative overhaul. And I said here as in response to this, if they would have not connected it to the Netflix series, it would have been game over. As great as it would have been to see Charlie Cox as Daredevil again, it would not have been worth it. All those years of emotional investment for nothing. This was the right call. And I want you to pay attention to what I'm saying there. All those years of emotional investment for nothing. This was the right call, because this is the right call. When you have a character like Daredevil, one whose cancellation in 2018 after 3 seasons was a massive upset for people who are big fans of that show, and then them finally doing Disney Plus like a year later and everything else, talking about the idea of bringing in Daredevil, talking about bringing back the Netflix shows, and then they do bring back Daredevil, and then we find out that it's a whole new show and it's mostly a courtroom drama and all these things. And then now we get the Punisher, we're getting Bullseye, we're getting Karen and Foggy, we're getting the team. It may not be back together. They may only be in it for a little bit because there's a creative overhaul and it comes out, next year. But at the same time, they listened to the fact that the fans want the continuity and the connection from what they established with their own emotions, right? The emotional connections that they established with these characters. That is what I want you to focus on. That is a reason why this is fucking important, because the emotional continuity or the emotional connections to the continuity is everything that Marvel has based itself on since it launched in 2008 with Iron Man. Everything's connected. That's through Marvel Studios. It's had a lot of hiccups along the way. Do not get me wrong. It has had a magnitude of hiccups along the way. You've had Ike Perlmutter furious with Kevin Feige and the fact that he wanted to spend money and going around his back to Bob Iger and threatening to quit. So Bob Iger stepping in and basically making it so Kevin Feige answers to him and Alan Horn, and not to Ike Perlmutter. Perlmutter then taking away Daredevil, taking away the was it not the Eternals? What was it? The Inhumans, which was meant to be Marvel's version of X-Men. All those things, doing everything with Jeff Loeb at Marvel Television to distance themselves. Look at Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The first season of that show ran congruent to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, having even an 8-episode tie-in to Captain America's Winter Soldier in 2014. And then after that, they deviated into a whole other different universe, so to speak, and made it completely nonsensical and not part of it. And then that happened with Inhumans and everything else. And yet now we're at a place where everything can be connected again. Everything can be built up again. Everything can be copacetic again. And then here comes Kevin Feige with just pointing a gun at his own foot. Like, you know what? Screw it. Let's shoot ourselves in the foot. And let's absolutely self-immolate. And you might be asking yourself, Matt, why are you so upset about this? What's going on? What's wrong? Why are you pissed? Well, I'm pissed because this article, this popped up on Discussing Film a little bit ago. The new Marvel television rebranding will allow audiences to decide what they want to watch without MCU continuity obligations, saying you can jump in anywhere. They're interconnected, but they're not. You don't have to watch A to enjoy B. You can follow your own preferences. And that, to me, my friends, is absolutely a death knell. It is an absolute destruction of everything that they have built. And the thing is, a lot of people are supporting of this, okay? Like, I've got the, I commented it here on Discussing Film, 300, I've been going at it with people. We have a lot of comments, a lot of quotes and everything else. But the truth of the matter is I'm right. I'm 100% right. I'm 100% right. The reason why I'm 150,000 billion% correct is this is what Marvel built its entire brand off of. This is what Marvel absolutely built everything that it is off of. And now they're going to look at it and just kind of throw their chin up at it, right? Give it the middle finger, tell it to pound sand and fuck off. I understand that there's an issue right now with maybe the oversaturation of this kind of content, that there is the inevitability of Marvel fatigue to some extent. But that being said, it's not about the content. It's about how much of the content and how much of it is coming out and how it's coming out and when it's coming out, so on and so forth. We have to remember that this is always the case. Now, look, comic books right now are the predominant, comic book movies, I should say, are the predominant entertainment franchise, theme, genre. There's the word, genre in movies and television. It's everywhere, right? Like The Boys comes back in a couple weeks and we're all really excited. That's based on a comic book. But the big problem here with Marvel is they built it up on continuity. So let's talk about that for a second. Because oh man, people were coming at me today going like, what does Marvel have to, like, what does the MCU have to do with like anything, right? Like the MCU has been dying now for years. And then someone brought up like pre-COVID. And I'm like, are you all fair weather fans? Are you all just full of revisionist history? Do you guys even remember 2019? Does anyone remember 2019? I know it's been 5 years, but does anyone really remember 2019? We had 3 Marvel movies that year. Captain Marvel in early March, Avengers Endgame in, I think at the end of April, early May, whatever it was. And then July was Spider-Man Homecoming. It was Spider-Man Far From Home. All 3 of those movies went on to gross over $1 billion. Spider-Man, I think, was like 1.3, Captain Marvel 1.1, and obviously Avengers Endgame, $2.8 billion, overtook Avatar as the highest grossing film of all time for a short period of time. Massive movies, massive hits, lots of money. Didn't move the needle in regards to comic books, by the way. People aren't reading comic books. Like, the industry is not growing. It's not dead, but it's not growing, which largely means that it's dying. If you go to any bookstore, you're going to notice that manga is 100% like overtaken everything. Not even that, but like Korean anime, books like what are those webtoons, whatever they're called. Those have taken over comic books in a lot of the stores. You go to Walmart, same thing, maybe a couple comics, but mostly the Korean stuff or the Japanese stuff. Why is that? Because they're single continuous stories. You pick up issue 1 of a manga like One Piece, and it's the same storyline that's 1,000 issues into the story. Now, you might argue that there's a lot there and that's going to be hard to dive into, but it gives you a starting point and it gives you at least a continuation point. Comic books have, for the lack of a better term, run out of ideas, but they still have to keep pumping out stories. So instead of building up a continuous run that's going to last a long period of time, which shouldn't be that difficult to do, to tell 26 pages worth of story once a month, it has a lot to do with like, oh, we need to bring in this new run. Here's a new pitch. Here's this, here's that. Here's all these other things. And audiences are not vibing with it. Audiences aren't vibing with Elseworld stories. They're not vibing with everything else. In some cases, like let's say Miles Morales, they'll become more mainstream, but that's very rare. And manga is still beating the ever-loving shit out of comic books in regards to sales. And why is that? It's continuous storytelling. The MCU built itself on continuous storytelling. It bucked the trend. It literally bucked the trend of what comics were. It's like when we're talking about the multiverse. And I kept saying this for years. No one cares about the multiverse. No one fucking cares at all. There's not going to be some random dude in Oklahoma that's going to be like, I really care about this variant of a character. No one cares. The multiverse is a crutch of a storytelling of a storytelling device. And it's dumb, and it's run its course theatrically. It's good 1, 2, 3 times at most. Okay, now Marvel's neck deep, balls deep in it, and they're going to be in it until Secret Wars, so they can reestablish a new continuity. But in the meantime, they have all of these shows on Disney Plus. Why do they have all of these shows? Well, they skipped 2020 because of the pandemic, which meant that all the movies for 2020 had to come out in 2021. all the shows had to come out in 2021 because they've got all these contracts and they've got all these actors that they have hired and they have all these VFX teams and these VFX houses that bid on these contracts in order to be able to do the work for them. And they're all of a sudden rushed to get a lot more of it done because they've got to meet this demand that is unattainable because Bob Iger was like pushing Disney Plus as hard as he was. The streaming bubble burst. We know that. That's the reality of it. Marvel suffered absolutely as a result of that. So instead of going out and creating this, I don't know, this world of non-super connected shows that aren't really necessary to watch other ones, yada, 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 it's a step backward. It's running the other direction. Lean in to the continuous world building, but do it slowly and more focused and more deliberate and tell the stories and allow them to breathe and then build to the end game. That's the biggest problem with these new set of phases from phase 4 and phase 5. And we're still in phase 5. They have now just established a villain in Kang. And then also that actor ended up getting convicted of like a minor sexual assault charge. So they fired him and they haven't announced what they're going to do. They haven't announced the recasting. They just announced the guy playing Galactus in Fantastic Four. Okay, cool. But is he going to be a big deal, or is he just going to be a cameo for that movie? Are they building him up for down the road? Kind of like, what was it? Was it Ares or who was it? Hermes? I don't know. Whatever the guy was at the end of Thor 4. It's like they're setting this thing up. They just don't know what they're doing right now. And that's the biggest damn problem, is that they just don't know what they're doing. And they're running into all these issues because they've expanded so fast, because they had the pandemic, they had the writer's strike and the actor's strike. They have obligations to their shareholders, this being Disney, and those shareholders want money. And that money then comes from new subscribers, which means putting out more content. That's the biggest issue here. It's not what they're putting out necessarily, albeit some of it is rushed. It is the fact that they are putting out a bunch of it too fast. This whole there should always be something Marvel related, whether it's TV or movies, is a bad idea. If you're going to do 2 movies a year, do 2 shows a year, 1 a quarter, there you go. There you go. Smaller, more intimate stories that feed into the larger narrative as well as the movies that are coming out. Establish your villain, establish your heroes, establish the story, build to the end arc, move on to the next phase, move on to the next overall story. This is not difficult. This is not rocket science. I don't know what's going on, but this is not the way. This is not the way. This is a bad, bad, bad thing for them to do. And the people on Twitter don't understand this. People on Twitter don't understand this. They just don't. I'm sure people in the audience listening right now are just not going to understand this. It's unfortunate. I'm trying to explain it in the best way possible, that the best thing for them to do in the long run is to slow down and focus on more content. Don't pull away from the interconnectivity, because that is what you promised your fans. And once you start to pull back on your promises from fans, then you're done. People did say to me today, well, what about the Marvels? That movie bombed. Yeah, but let's talk about the Marvels real quick. Captain Marvel was a $1.1 billion movie. Why is that? Oh, it was a slingshot film leading up to Avengers Endgame. Had you put Captain Marvel in July of 2018 when Ant-Man and the Wasp came out and moved Ant-Man and the Wasp into the early March of 2019 spot where they could lead into Endgame, Ant-Man and the Wasp would have been a $1 billion movie. It didn't matter what movie was there. The hype was so high for Endgame that it simply didn't matter. That movie was going to do well. Then you get, of course, WandaVision and Miss Marvel with Teyonah Parris and Iman Vellani, whatever, with these characters. And again, the idea there is that like people watch them. People watch Miss Marvel. People watched WandaVision. They know who these characters are, but it's the fact that Miss Marvel herself is not that strong of a character. Carol Danvers is not that strong of a character. She didn't leave that much of an impact on anything following the events of Avengers Endgame. And having her have a sequel movie where she is not the main character, but she is now one of 3 characters is very confusing to the people who might have shown up. So again, there just wasn't a built-up audience. They tried to force people into liking Miss Marvel, which didn't necessarily work. I think more people liked Monica Rambeau and they liked Kamala Khan. I think they liked more of them because they watched them on Disney Plus, where if I recall correctly, the Marvels has done quite well on Disney Plus. That's also another thing too, in regards to the 45-day window for PVOD and then the 90-day window for streaming or whatever it is. That's a whole other conversation in regards to movie theaters and the studios, and how studios are very much just using movie theaters right now as a launch pad to push PVOD sales, because they know that you're not going to show up. They hope that you do, but they know that you're not going to actually show up. So instead, instead of actually trying to push something that people want to go see, making an event movie. That's Deadpool Wolverine, by the way. They know that people are just going to wait. Those who want to see it will see it. And then they'll drop it on PVOD and they'll make their money on that way. And then they can use the theatrical write down to save money. Oh, we lost all this money at the box office, but we're not talking about how much we made in home video sales. Gee, I wonder what's going on with that. Kind of weird, isn't it? A little bit sus, a little bit crazy, don't you think? But that being said, I leave it all to you guys. I want you to give me a holler at some point in time. Remember, 323-400-4956. This is Hollywood After Dark. As always, I do appreciate everybody, even if we don't always agree on everything, but it is a good time. Expect more content from me, more Podio commentaries, more breakdowns of what's happening. If you like the video, if you like the stream, if you like the podcast, recommend it to your friends. Join up, become a subscriber, become a channel member. Help me out. I love you. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one, everybody, and peace the